Welcome to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show on Lone Star Gridiron. I'm Chris Daly, and it's my belief that the men that make up the fraternity of Texas high school football coaches are much more than a bunch of thick-necked guys with whistles. They do so much more than teach technique and the X's and O's of football. They take young boys and change them into young men of character. They get kids to believe in themselves, to trust others, and to put others ahead of themselves. Texas high school football coaches are unique in how they impact the lives of these athletes as well as the generations those kids touch. In this show, I sit down with a different Texas high school football coach each time and learn about them. Not their record, not their on-field accomplishments, but who they are and what they believe and what it means to be part of the greatest sport in the greatest state. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lone Star Gridiron Texas High School Football Coaches Show, Season 4, Episode 13. I am your host, Chris Daly, and today we're going out deep in the heart of the East Texas Timber Belt to talk to Luke Blackwell from the Mineola Yellow Jackets. I will introduce you to him right after this. Hey, I want to give a big thank you to this season's title sponsor, Mecca Sportswear, where they are all about celebrating achievement. They're honored that so many high schools, colleges, and universities have chosen Mecca's products to represent their institutions. Mecca supplies you with the very best in custom letter jackets, chenille letters, patches, blankets, banners, pins, certificates, and much more to motivate and celebrate achievement in athletics, academics, or the arts. They create high-quality custom awards that will fit your budget. To see why so many great schools around Texas choose Mecca Sportswear, call Sherry Armstrong or Billy Armstrong at 210-651-6592. Mecca Sportswear, the premier suppliers of letter jackets and awards for over 40 years. Hey, I want to introduce you to our newest sponsor. It is 99 Pledges. And if you're looking for a quick and easy way to raise a bunch of money for your sports team, 99 Pledges is the best way for football teams and booster clubs to raise the most money with the least amount of effort. Donors can donate online. Each player gets their own donation page that they can share with their friends and family all over the country, like grandparents in Florida by email, text, Facebook, or any of the social media outlets. By going online with 99 Pledges, it's easy to spread the word about your fundraiser, keep everyone involved and informed. Because of this, 99 Pledges has seen teams raise over $30,000. And teams like the Katy Tigers have exceeded their fundraising goal. That's the best part. Teams keep an average of 95% of what they raise. Players don't have to go door to door or track down donations. They can save all that energy for where it counts, on the gridiron. Check them out at 99pledges.com. They are an excellent organization. You're going to be so glad that your next fundraiser is through these guys. All right, everybody, join me in welcoming Coach Luke Blackwell from Mineola to the show. Coach, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Chris. I appreciate you having me on this morning.
Oh, you bet. It is my honor. Nothing cooler, to me anyway, than being able to talk with Texas high school football coaches.
Absolutely. I appreciate that any chance I get.
You bet. So, as you know, we're not going to talk about the Yellow Jackets, although, there's plenty of questions I'd love to ask you about that. Maybe we'll save that for coaching school.
Sure.
But I want to instead talk about you and your career, your philosophy, things like that. Let's start with when you discovered football as a sport, and that could have been, from 2 years old up to teenage years. You tell me,
right.
When did you discover football?
I'll tell you what, from a very young age, I was always in love with sports in general. So for me, it was season to season, football during football season, and then basketball, then baseball. So, I really had a love for all sports growing up, especially football. And I would say probably because around my family, everybody was a big Cowboys fan. So that was a big deal. And Longhorns fans. So, on game days, it was a special time, and everybody gathered around the TV, and that was the big deal for the week. And so I guess that really caught on with me at a young age, and got my interest in wanting to watch the ball games and understand the game and figure out who's who and what was going on and all that stuff. So I was a fan from a very young age.
Nice, and that was a time when those teams stayed together year after year. So
that's right.
So you really could have players you loved. Who were some of your early favorites?
Oh, I tell you what, just thinking about, those old Cowboy teams. Bill Bates was a guy that I resonated with early because I remember my dad saying, look at this guy. He does all the little things. He's not going to get the glory, but watch the effort that he plays with and the passion that he brings to the game week in and week out. And I think it's easy to fall in love with guys like that come with a workman attitude and work hard every day. But what you say is true. It's easy to be a fan back then because, if you were a Cowboy, you were a Cowboy. You weren't going to be playing for the Eagles the next season more than likely. And I think that's true for all sports today, and it really makes the games a lot different, in my opinion.
No, I agree, and that's why for me, high school football is so good because you've got these kids that have been playing in that city since Pee Wee and then junior high and then high school. They grew up together.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that's it's a special experience for them, or we want it to be, like you said, for a lot of these kids, it's fun and exciting when they're starting out in the Pee Wee and the younger ages, and we want to build that as they get older and come through the program. We still want to make it fun and exciting for them. And, we want that goal to be to step out on that field Friday night and win ball games and get to experience things at that level where the environment's different, when you got a big home game in front of your home fans and get to experience those things. And I think that's really a special feeling. And, I'd say especially so at the smaller towns and some of these smaller schools, I think it's really a fun process.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about you now and when you discovered that coaching might be what you want to do for a career.
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's something I talk to kids about all the time. What are the things that you're interested in? What do you want to do after high school? Mm-hmm. And for me, I always had a desire to be affiliated with sports in some way.
Right.
And I thought coaching would be an avenue, and I had some advice coming out of high school that maybe that wasn't going to be the best choice because maybe I wasn't going to make enough money to make a decent living and be able to provide. And so I actually went to college for business, went to business school, got a finance degree, and tried my hand in that for a couple of years coming out of college. And then I realized, I don't want to be sitting in this office all the time answering this phone. This is not where my heart is and not what I want to do. And so at that time I called some guys that I knew in the business, some former coaches, and got an opportunity. And man, I really think that's what God had intended for me to do. And it's been great.
Nice. So if you could take me stop by stop, from your first job right out of college up to today, every place you've worked in.
Well, this is going to be simple. This will be a short answer here. I called one of my former high school coaches, Ralph Limas, who's since passed away, but he was taking a job at Coldspring, 3A school down by Conroe, and I called him and said, "Man, you got a job? I want to get in the business?" And he says, "You bet, come on." So I went down there and spent 5 years down there in Cold Spring. Went to a couple of different athletic directors, but I started the middle school coordinator, just kind of cutting teeth as a young guy, and came up to the high school as an assistant, and then in 07, 08, I was looking to move back toward East Texas, closer to home. We had wife and I had a small child at that time, and wanted to get back in this area, and I literally was kind of going door to door in this area with resumes, and came by Mineola, not ever intended to come back and work here, but I met Coach Drennan, and we hit it off really well, and he gave me an opportunity to come here and be a part of his staff, and I've been here ever since, and it's really been a blessing. It's really just been a part of God's plan, and trying to follow his path for me, and be where he wants me to be.
Nice. And Mineola is where you actually went to high school, correct?
That's right. My wife and I both graduated here in '95, and never at that time, when you're leaving, you don't ever plan on coming back. So I don't, I don't know that we did either. And sometimes that's just how things work out. It certainly has been a blessing.
So, I guess talk about that part. The fact that you were from there.
Sure.
Does that help you when it's time for them? When Coach Drennan moved on to Hallsville, did it help that, hey, you're a Mineola boy?
I think definitely so. I'll say, this school district, in my opinion, does a great job of looking to hire from within and looking to hire alumni and let's get people involved that that are from this community and know this community, and let's try to keep those people here as much as we can. And I've got several guys on staff that are alumni, and I think that's a big deal, and it's important. Certainly it's helped me in my career, but it's important to me because I have a little different perspective on the program and the success that I want for our overall program. In the fact that I've seen what it's like, 25 years ago, and I know what I want it to be, and I've got a genuine interest in seeing things through and make sure that things are done the right way.
Yeah. So in Mineola, it's had a resurgence as far as a football team, because I think it was back in the 60s was the last time they had.
That's right.
Double-digit wins. That's right. Now it turned into a power. You kind of were there to witness that. What
Sure.
was the change?
Well, I think it's a lot of things, really. It's hard to change a culture that's not used to winning. Right. That's not an overnight process. There's nothing you can do to quick fix issues like that. It's something that takes time and it takes stability. And, I think we're fortunate in having Coach Drennan come in at that time, because he really laid the foundation in the things that he believed in combination with him being here for a long period of time. So the kids are getting a consistency every year. Right. The coaching staff is relatively consistent from year to year, and you're able to build on things that way and build on your expectations. And then obviously you have a couple of good classes and good groups of kids, and now you're able to put everything together. But I think that's a big part of it, is having consistency within the program, because it's really something that, Mineola has lacked in its history, having coaches that were here for any length of time at all. And, for the kids and for the program, it's really difficult where, every couple of years now you're doing something completely different, or you got new routines and new expectations and new things you do. So it's really difficult. Right.
And we all know that nobody has success alone. So talk about, in your career, the coaches that you've worked with and for, and the impact they've had on your career.
Well, I'll tell you, Ralph Limas being number one, because he gave me my first opportunity and first job, and he didn't ask any questions. I said, I think I want to coach, and he says, come on, get down here, move down here, and I'll make it happen. He doesn't. He knows me as a player, so he knows me as a person. That relationship between player coach is really something special, and that meant a lot to me. And getting that first opportunity, and the same thing with Joe Drennan. I mean, it's difficult in this business, in this day and age we live in. Hiring good people is a big deal, and sometimes it's really difficult to do. And looking back at that, he doesn't know me from a man in the moon. And so essentially he's hiring me as a guy off the street that he doesn't know and doesn't know much about, and giving me an opportunity to be here, and then giving me opportunities, to work up within his staff. And, I'd say he's been obviously really instrumental in my career. And I've been around and worked around so many people that, that have had a big part. And a lot of times it's small parts, it's things here and things there. But, the relationships that you build with other coaches is really special and really, really something unique about this business.
Yeah, definitely. So in every coach's career, what I've noticed is that when you first come out of college, it's about wins. It's about X's and O's. It's about techniques. It's about becoming a better coach of the game, the sport. And somewhere along the line, it changes to be about kids. When was that for you? How did that happen?
Oh, that's a good question, because, what you say is absolutely right. And you still see it today. And I don't know that it's a light coming on situation, or if I think it's more or less a gradual process, a maturing process, really. Because you're right, coming out of school, when you're getting in the business, you're thinking, this coaching is about wins and losses, and finding the right techniques and the right being able to develop your teams to be able to have winning records and win year in, year out. And then I think as you mature a little bit, then you kind of understand that, the big wins really come with the relationships that have been built. When you see people that are successful at the highest level, it's because the coaches and kids have an absolute love for one another. And that's something that's got to be built. It's got to be nurtured. It's got to be fed. It's not an overnight thing. And I think as you get older, you realize the value in that. You realize the value in each and every one of these kids' lives when they leave your program. Yeah. And, what are they going to be able to do when they leave here? And you want to give them the tools that that they're going to need to be successful. And the reality is, it doesn't have anything to do with winning a game on Friday night. Now, it has a lot to do with the process.
Right.
It has a lot to do with that process. And that's really what I've come to understand is it's about that process and teaching kids how to go through those things so that they understand what it takes for them to be successful in life.
Yeah. People see the game, but they don't realize the 6.5 other days that made that game possible.
There's nothing more true than that. And from a fan's perspective, and a lot of times from a parent's perspective, I mean, you see the result of the games being played on Friday night, but the process is so much more than that. Especially in today's game where we've got summer workouts. I mean, there really are no breaks anymore. We're doing something year round, and we're around these kids year round, and we're building and developing and trying to mold, and it's just it's a 24/7 process. It's all the time.
Yeah. And you also mentioned the relationships, and specifically the relationships with those kids. You've been in this business long enough now to have seen kids that you've coached go on, graduate, start careers. Talk about that aspect of it, staying connected with those former players.
Well, I tell you, it's just like kind of what I was talking about a minute ago, the time that you invest with these kids. And I mean, in a lot of ways, these are your kids.
Yeah.
And that's really how you come to feel about them. And if they're to call you for something, I mean, you're going to be there for them. And it's just really a special deal. In a lot of ways, they're just like your own child. And I treat them just like I would my own kids. And, we got, it's so rewarding, on a very selfish level when kids come back and say, this and this that I hated at the time. And I really see the benefit of that now. Or I was a knot-headed kid this time and you really stayed with me when you could have just told me to get lost. And it's really helped me get through this hard time. And those relationships that you build are lifelong. They're lifelong. And if they're not, you're probably not doing something right.
Right.
In my opinion, if you're not developing those kind of relationships, then you're probably not doing something right. And that's the best way I can explain it. Is just, just like watching your own kids grow up and take off in the world, and you want the best for them.
Yeah, definitely. So now that you have transitioned to sitting in the big chair, talk about the difference between being an assistant or a coordinator to being the man that everybody looks to.
Well, and there's a lot of differences, really. As an assistant, I really took my role as, this is my specific job, what I need to do. I'm going to coordinate this defense. And so, when I'm doing things like that, I'm going to focus all my energy 100% into doing that job the best I can. And really stay within my boundaries, but focus on that particular thing. Well, in this chair, there's a lot of those, those jobs and assignments, a lot of those other things that need attention, and you have to have a focus on the big picture of things, and get your hand in a little bit of everything, and manage and delegate and all of those things. There's a lot of things that you may not have had to do as an assistant. People talk a lot of times about, when you apply for a head coach athletic job, they want you to have experience. And it's one of those things that, what came first, the chicken or the egg? At some point to get experience, you kind of jump in there and figure some stuff out.
Yeah.
And I think it is. I think it's that way in a lot of ways that you get in, get your feet wet. You surround yourself with good people, and you go to work. And I think you do so with a clear focus and mindset that at the end of the day, you want to do absolutely what's best for each and every kid in your program. And I think if you gear things that way, then you tend to be successful.
Nice. So you mentioned surrounding yourself with good people. You also mentioned earlier that hiring good people is becoming more and more difficult. How do you solve that issue?
Well, it's a good question. I have to be a better judge of body language. I don't know. It is difficult. Well, I'll start with the importance. Number one, I just don't think that there's anything more important. Not just surrounding myself with good people, but I'm really surrounding kids with good people, and people of high character and values and morals. I just think it's very important in the world that we live in that I want to have those experiences every day, to be led by those types of men and women, and that's what we hope to find. And on the second part of that question, how do you find them? It's tough, and in our business, so much is done through the relationships we build with other coaches. So certainly we talk to each other a lot about people that we coach with or coached against, and people that we know, and you really try to find out what type of person somebody is, what type of work ethic they have, And it's tough because, something you alluded to earlier, a lot of young guys coming out of college, the perspective's a little different at that time. It's about wins and how fast can I become a head coach, and it's difficult, because you kind of got to take the young guys under your wings a little bit and teach them, the process of how you get where they want to be and understand and value that process a little bit. So it's difficult, and in this day and age of social media, anything that you do out of character, at some point it's going to come to light. And that's the world we live in. And so we have tremendous responsibility as athletic directors to find good character people to have working with our kids every day. And I take that as a very big and a very personal responsibility.
Yeah. Let's say you're talking to some of these people who maybe don't have a background in football, don't understand it, or maybe are from out of state and have no clue why we as Texans find this game so important. How do you explain that?
Well, I don't know, because I hadn't been outside the state of Texas. I don't know what these other guys, I don't know. I think maybe it's, I think it probably has a lot to do with upbringing and the culture and environment that a lot of us are raised in here in Texas. And, we, like I said, when I was young, we make football games on Friday nights, on Saturdays, and on Sundays are an important way of life for a lot of people. And we grow up that way, and those things continue in our families. And we, whether we coach or not, we make those things important, and we go to Friday night games, and we watch college football on Saturday. And I think those are things that we do. And in my personal experience, and I think in a lot of people's experience, those are times we spend with family too. Yeah. And it's, just special times that we have growing up, and we related to, football games and experiences that we've had around football games. And, fathers and sons spend time going to games and watching games together. It's just a big deal. And it's, it's something that you just got to be here to experience. It's hard to explain.
Amen. Well, Coach Luke Blackwell, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me and sharing a little bit of your insight.
Absolutely, Chris. I appreciate you so much for having me on.
You bet.
Rocket Man, the story of D.W. Rutledge and the Judson High School football dynasty, is a must-read. It provides complete coverage of every game coached by Rutledge, but more importantly, tells the stories of the impact he has had on the tens of thousands of students, parents, coaches, administrators, and fans. Dr. Charles Breithaupt and Chris Daly, both well-known in the Texas high school football community, joined forces to tell this much-needed and inspiring tale. Get your copy now at rocketmanbook.com.
This show is brought to you by the book, All I Need to Know I Learned from My Texas High School Football Coach, a handbook of wisdom for parents, young people, and yes, even coaches. Head over to www.learnedfromcoach.com and order your copy to support sharing the stories of these great coaches and leaders. That's learnedfromcoach.com.
Once again, I want to thank Coach Luke Blackwell for sitting down with me, sharing some of his story, and remind you guys to please support these sponsors, because it really helps us bring these stories to you, and I know I love doing them. Until next time, we'll see you at the game.